Have you ever walked home while it's getting late? Perhaps you've carried a heavy backpack with you. Perhaps you went outside with your friends and you have gone your separate ways. Perhaps you have just ended one of the most fun birthday parties of your life. You walk home, your feet aching, the sun slowly setting. While the light lasts, you are slow, but as darkness creeps in, you quicken your pace. Nobody is here. You reflect on your life and how irrelevant it is, and remember all the things you could have done that you didn't when people were still around. That's, well, my own personal experience with loneliness. The emotion comes in many, many different forms of expression. Some might even be ambiguous as to what they wish to convey, yet still evoke that deep sadness. Take, for example, Christina's World by Andrew Wyeth. It clearly instills a sense of longing, a sense of forlornness from its display of three-dimensional space to its hiding of the emotion on the girl's face. We're being held back from her true emotion, her facial expression, and from that, we can see so much more from our own interpretation. The colors are subdued and dull, creating a solid lack of joy or cheer in what I consider one of the greatest paintings of all time. Let's take a contrast to that. The Soothsayer's Recompense by Giorgio de Chirico. This painting makes its loneliness expressed with a similar dull style, but with a very different palette selection. The painting utilizes a very yellowish hue, with very clear shadows and Giorgio's familiar visual of an empty courtyard. This empty, surrealist artwork is an example of the darker side of loneliness. I've always seen it as a sort of longing alongside that sorrow, and Recompense shows this very well. From its lying statue, its empty courtyard and clock, and the train in the distance with the darkening skyline, the entire work is sad and eerie, as if this train is leaving you behind. A total lack of humanity, save the lone statue, an artwork that is proof of humanity's existence, even though that humanity is not present. There's something that I often associate with loneliness, and it may surprise you. Peace. Isn't that slightly contradictory? Well, not exactly. Loneliness is, to me, less sadness with crying and ranting, and more of a moment of quiet contemplation of the state of one's life, with no one around you to tell you what to do. Picture this, a long car ride. You're in a foreign country, zooming across the countryside in a rented vehicle. You look around at the countryside, the animals, the houses, knowing this is the first and last time you'll ever see this beautiful landscape. Then, you think of home, and how far you are from everyone else, and how little of an impact you're going to make on this singular, wonderful, tranquil place. And that makes everything all the more sad. It's when you don't let stuff out and cry. It's when you sit alone, staring blankly into nothing as you're left behind. You're silent, even when they ask you questions or try to help. You remain quiet. You remain melancholy. You're desensitized, not only from interaction, but from everything. Like you're floating in a distant world, longing to go back, but you can't. Like a wall has divided you and all you love. You don't need to be alone to feel lonely. You just need to be set apart too far, the wall built too high to climb over. I enjoy browsing the subreddit Canopsia a lot. There's something about the emptiness of the posts there that I love. If you watched my essay on Vaporwave, you'll remember that Canopsia is defined as the lonely and bizarre feeling you get from places that should be full of people, but are now quiet and lonely, almost desolate. Some of the images from that subreddit have quite a profound effect on me. Specifically, this one of a long since shut down Blockbuster store. I did a little tinkering to it and added clouds and a sky, and for some strange reason, it appealed to me more. There's something in this image that stirs a loneliness in me, generating a feeling I didn't know I had. Living in Asia, I never saw a Blockbuster, although there was a ripoff of it opposite my apartment, which has long since shut down. But this combination of an abandoned building with dull colors alongside the clouds and blue sky, a symbol of nature, allow me to imagine the world surrounding this Blockbuster. I myself visualize a massive empty car park with this in the very center, with a clear blue sky and no tall skyscrapers, cars, or people in sight. These images, this collection of the strange feeling experienced by people all over the globe, are what I feel are the true representation of loneliness. I look back at what once was, with no one else present, a quiet, melancholy contemplation. It's as if whenever I feel lonely, I find myself back at this abandoned Blockbuster store, wondering. And I hear the distant call of my friends from a field far off in the distance. Sometimes I walk over to them. Sometimes I sit in front of the old Blockbuster store and wonder, and wonder, and wonder.